Imagine telling someone you're 100 miles from your destination, only to have a sailor or pilot politely respond, "That's nice, but which kind of mile?" Because ships and airplanes don't usually navigate using the ordinary mile most people know. They use the nautical mile. And at first, that sounds unnecessarily complicated. Why invent another mile? Is 1 mile not already doing enough? Did sailors look at the regular mile and think it's too simple? And why would airplanes, which spend most of their time nowhere near the ocean, adopt the same strange measurement? The answer has less to do with tradition than you might think. It might seem like an unnecessary extra unit of measurement, but behind it lies one of the cleverest ideas in navigation, and it's been guiding travelers for centuries. Welcome to Past in Plain Sight. Today we're uncovering the fascinating reason ships and planes use nautical miles instead of regular miles. To understand why ships and planes use nautical miles instead of regular miles, we have to go back to the problem sailors faced long before airplanes existed. Imagine you're sailing across an enormous ocean. There are no roads, no street signs, no giant arrow pointing toward London saying, "Just keep going." All you have is a map, a compass, the stars, and hopefully a navigator who knows what they're doing. But there was a major problem. Sailors weren't simply interested in measuring distance. They needed to know where they were on Earth, and Earth isn't flat. Unfortunately for ancient navigators, the planet refused to cooperate with convenient geometry. Instead, it is roughly spherical. That meant sailors needed a measurement that worked naturally with latitude and longitude. And that's where the nautical mile enters the story. A nautical mile is based on Earth's geometry. 1 nautical mile corresponds to 1 minute of latitude. There are 60 minutes in 1 degree of latitude. So if a ship travels 60 nautical miles north or south, it has moved roughly 1 degree of latitude. Suddenly, the strange nautical mile makes a lot more sense. It's not just an arbitrary distance. It's connected directly to the coordinate system used for navigation. Imagine having a ruler designed specifically for the map you're using. That's basically what the nautical mile became. But why couldn't sailors just use regular miles? Because the ordinary mile wasn't designed specifically around Earth's coordinate system. The modern International Nautical Mile is exactly 1,852 meters. A statute mile, the familiar mile used on roads in countries such as the United States, is 1,609.344 meters. So they're definitely not the same. And that means when a ship says it's traveling at 20 knots, it's not doing 20 regular miles per hour. It's traveling at 20 nautical miles per hour. That's about 23 regular miles per hour. Which brings us to another mystery. If nautical miles are so useful for ships, why do airplanes use them? After all, airplanes aren't ships with wings desperately trying to escape the ocean. The reason is navigation. Aircraft also navigate using latitude and longitude. Pilots use aeronautical charts based on the same geographic coordinate system. So using nautical miles allows distances on the chart to connect naturally with the coordinates. A pilot can look at a chart, measure a distance, and relate that distance directly to latitude and longitude. That's extremely useful when you're flying hundreds or thousands of kilometers across the planet. And there's another advantage. It makes calculating travel time easier. If an aircraft is flying at 480 knots, that means roughly 480 nautical miles per hour. If the distance to a waypoint is 240 nautical miles, the basic calculation is simple, about 30 minutes. Of course, real flights involve winds, routing, altitude changes, and air traffic restrictions. But the underlying system is wonderfully convenient. And this is where the knot joins the story. 1 knot means 1 nautical mile per hour. The name comes from an old maritime method of measuring speed using a rope with knots tied at intervals. Sailors would throw a device called a chip log into the water and allow the rope to run out while timing how many knots passed. Yes, modern pilots can fly at hundreds of knots using computers, satellites, and incredibly sophisticated instruments. But the unit they're using is connected to a sailor counting knots on a rope. History has jokes. There's another important reason nautical miles work so well in aviation, and that is wind. An aircraft doesn't always travel across the ground at the same speed it moves through the surrounding air. A strong tailwind can push an airplane along faster. A headwind can slow its progress across the ground. So pilots distinguish between different types of speed, including airspeed and ground speed. Navigation needs measurements that work naturally with distances across Earth's surface, and nautical miles fit perfectly into that system.